Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat powered by X2 Power. And guys, today, solo show. We are in, feels like late fall now. It is getting cold here in Colorado, anyways. My head is in the deer rut. I've got a whitetail or a mule deer tag in eastern Colorado. So I have been really planning on getting after that here, chasing those things around this weekend. Excited. Got some cold weather. Should be getting things going there. But this is one of my favorite times of the year, actually, for fishing. Not only just like actually getting out and fishing, find it hard because I have mixed emotions there during hunting season. But the other aspect, I love looking at all the schedules and thinking through what not only I'm going to fish next year, but also trying to think through on a national scale, where are guys going? There's so much drama in that. And with the economy the way it is, just trying to think through where these organizations' minds are at. And I kind of nerd out on this stuff. So what today's episode is going to be about is really comparing the options at that mid tier, I want to say, to where it's not that top level, right? Like if you make the BPT, you're fishing the BPT most of the time. If you make the Elite Series, you're fishing the Elite Series, or you John Cox it and do both, or apparently Keith Poche is doing that this year, right? So like that is that top tier. And then now, I mean, Major League Fishing has gone out and basically said, hey, look, we tried to have this also be a top pro circuit. The Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, which was the FLW Tour, is no longer. Now that is kind of being replaced, if you will, by the MLF Invitationals. And then, so to me, I'm putting, there's kind of four on this list of, I did a show a while back on kind of those grassroots level events, but now you have the next tier up now, in my opinion, is the Toyota Series. Did an episode a while back on the Toyota Series versus the Opens, payouts, all that kind of stuff. Now that's kind of changed because, not to say the Opens are any better from a payout standpoint. That really hasn't been released. I would presume it's similar to what it was. But anyways, you have to fish all 9. You don't have to fish all 9. If you want to get the most bang for your buck and try and make the Elite Series, you need to fish all 9 of those. So that is a little bit different now than the Toyota Series. And I think that the Toyota Series will see a bump in participation because of that, for folks who maybe aren't willing to, drop their career or whatever, spend the 40 to 60, $70,000 traveling for 9 events. So with that all being said, one thing that's kind of this weird, like, again, middle tier, which makes me think just like how many of these organizations, how many different series that we have. I mean, there's obviously demand for it. Anglers are crazy. I wonder though, economically, if sponsors cut back. Some of the stuff that Pete and I talked about on the most recent episode. If you missed that, Pete Glusek is incredible talking about how he started Bass U. 10 out of 10 interview. Had a great time with him. But anyways, I wonder how much of this is sustainable for these organizations with all these different divisions and stuff like that. So the two that I've been really comparing in my head lately and talking with folks in the industry and friends are kind of the Major League Fishing Invitationals and the NPFL. It's an interesting deal because previously these two tournament series had a very similar entry fee, which they still do, but Major League Fishing had quite a bit higher payouts with the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. Entry fee was slightly higher. I think it was $5,600, whereas the NPFL was $5,000. But the payout was quite a bit higher at the top end, especially. There was a championship, no entry fee championship. There was, 100 to 135,000 with the bonus. Wow, with the Phoenix bonus bucks to those top tier anglers. for the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. Now that it is the Invitationals, a lot of people feel that that is really taken away from those guys, which I would agree with, right? I mean, they're going from your top anglers. You look at the payouts in 2022. There's 3 or 4 anglers above the $150 to $250,000 mark in those divisions alone. So those are guys at the top end. Whereas you look at your top tier guys with the NPFL, and it may be more like 80 to I don't know. There's definitely some guys that have broke 100, but there's a good there's a lot of guys in that like 40 to 60,000, and then up on to that 80, 100, 120, 130,000, 150,000. Maybe at the top end there. I'm curious now. I'm gonna look at their AOI. Yeah, I mean top earner looks like Taylor Watkins, who's an absolute animal right now, cannot be stopped on the NPFL. Just had him on the Serious Angler guys with Andrew and Bailey. Just had him on. But anyways, 141,000. And then it kind of drops off pretty drastically there compared to on the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. So kind of just thinking through all of this, to me, these are two very similar situations now, going from the Pro Circuit, what has basically come out and said, hey, look, can't make money with this, which is, you know, I guess understandable. You just think about how expensive all the live is. These anglers are already paying this high entry fee, but it wasn't a profitable situation. So you wonder with any of this stuff how profitable it really is. But with the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, basically Major League Fishing was like, this isn't another professional series. Let's bring it down to this Invitationals that will be the sole qualifier for the BPT, which makes sense to me to have that as a qualification system for that top tier, and to not stray away from that top tier of your anglers. It's a pro sport kind of a situation. So now they're basically $5,000 entry fee. NPFL's $5,000 entry fee. Top payout in the NPFL when you win an event is 50 grand. Maybe slightly higher when there was more guys. Invitationals 80 grand with if you run a Phoenix Boats, great bonus, 115,000 there. So already it's slightly better on that top tier level. We don't know what that payout looks like going down the list. Whereas the NPFL, they paid to 40 places. That Invitationals, we don't know because it's new, right? I'm gonna guess it's fairly similar there to the NPFL in that. Now, capped at 150 boat field at the Invitationals, NPFL, they seem to start with 120 something range boats, seems to kind of drop off tail end of the season. So kind of some differences there. Both of them feature live coverage, which I think is great for the sport. I'm a live junkie. There's live fishing on. I generally have it on, especially if I'm in the office working, that kind of thing. So with that I think is the sell for both of these organizations. And I'm curious to see what the Opens do if they were able to incorporate that. I think that makes it a great play for the folks who do have sponsors who are trying to sell that exposure, if you will. NPFL's got live coverage on the 2 final days of the event. Major League Fishing has it on all 3 days as of now. And they fish full field 2 days, 50 on the final day. NPFL, all 3 days, all anglers fish. So this is kind of an interesting thing because you have these two organizations that are very similar, or these two tournament structures that are very similar, and kind of let's try to get into some of these differences here. So on the Major League Fishing side, the top 8 move on to the BPT. So that's that higher pay point. Their stars in Major League Fishing are on the BPT. So that is cool. You got your top 8 going to there. NPFL doesn't have anything like that. But what the NPFL does have is they pay out an AOI. So that's kind of cool. You get an AOI payout. I think it pays to 10 places. Kind of a neat deal there. Very interesting about the Major League Fishing part of things is the ability to fish not necessarily all 6 of the events. So both of these are 6 event schedules. Good situation for maybe someone who is working and wants to fish at that national scale, have that experience of fishing nationally, but not willing to fish that 9, 10, 15 tournament season to really not be able to have a necessary full-time job by any means after that. So what is interesting about the Major League Fishing side of things is they are going to allow folks to fish any amount of events under 5, so long as the field is not already full. So how they are breaking this down right now is they're taking the top 75 guys in the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, giving them a first bid. If people, so say 55 of them accept that. Okay. Next step down is basically going to go to, let's see here. They've got a really interesting qualifications. The top 15 pros based on the pro circuit of lifetime Angler of the Year rankings, excluding their worst year of 4 years. Then it goes down to all the Toyota Series guys who finished in the top 5 AOI per division. So I think there's 30 of those. Then All-American guy, TBF national champion, single kind of things. And then it basically goes into Bass Pro Tour guys who did not requalify for the BPT. After that, the remaining invitations go to the BPT anglers who are going to fish all 6. After that, it is going to the BPT anglers who are fishing 5 or fewer invitationals. So what this is kind of interesting is I don't know if it will go past that. I don't know how many guys, how hungry anglers are to fish this versus, you hear a lot of grumblings of guys moving different directions. So if you're traditionally a Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit or previous FLW angler, and you are like, man, my payouts are getting cut drastically here. There's no championship anymore. Maybe it's time to take a chance with the opens, right? Like that's a riskier career move right now, payout wise, but maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel with the Elite Series if the goal isn't to make the BPT. So interesting with all of this. And I'm curious how much of this field will be filled at that 150 angler level. If they go past, they even say it right here. If they go, if there's your top tier anglers, your BPT guys that are fishing 5 or less events, if it goes below that, then any remaining spots will be filled by league invitation. So I'm curious where that goes. Does that go to the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit guys that weren't in the top 75? Does it go to Toyota Series anglers? Like, to me, to make the numbers work, they're gonna get the 150 anglers. And we all know there's gonna be guys out there that would be willing to fish. Especially you think about just 1 or 2 of these events, like that's a safety net to Major League Fishing. Like if you can't get 150 guys to commit to all 6, it from an income standpoint, right? Like it doesn't matter who it is, right? There's 30 local guys that are going to be on this play. So say you're like a Lake of the Ozarks hammer. And you're like, man, I'd love to spend $5,000 and fish against the top guys at my home pond. That's a cool situation to me versus a lot of times, right? Like you're shielded if you're a really, really good fisherman on Lake Champlain, for instance. You can't fish for that $100,000 payday, in this case, $80,000 payday, because if you're not a part of a top tier series. You can fish a Toyota Series there, which is great and can have a fantastic payout on a $2,000 entry fee, but you can't fish that top level. So this is kind of one really cool side to me of this is that maybe there's that ability for someone to hop into a couple or make your season fit, like with a BPT angler or something. So interesting deal there. I am so curious to see where guys go with all of this, with the NPFL, with the invitationals, with the opens. I mean, that those changes are big. And I think that it will be telling in those first couple events on which of these tournament organizations have full fields. Maybe they all do. The way tournament fishing has gone here recently, the Toyota series were absolutely booked out this last year. I mean, or very, very full fields. The opens, very full fields. Now, are the opens going to drop off? Or are they going to stay really high? Is it going to be, that's another thing to think about is like, okay, what kind of talent is going to be in the opens all nine? Are we going to see a lot of those top pro level guys jump into the opens to try and make the BP or make the Bassmaster Elite Series? So it's going to be very, very exciting, I think. And I think that there's ups and downs to all of these. One huge other thing that I forgot to mention with the invitationals, that structure is almost making it similar to the Elite Series from the classic perspective. It's a win and you're in to the Red Crest of the following year. So very similar to the Elite Series and the Opens from that standpoint, or the Bassmaster Classic and the Opens. If you win an Open, you're into the Bassmaster Classic. Same goes for all anglers fishing the Opens, right? Like if you just hop into one and you win one, you have the chance to make the Classic. Years prior, it was what you had to at least fish the rest of that division, like your top. If you're fishing now they're Region 1, Region 2, Region 3 kind of a thing. I don't know if that changed or not with the Opens, but from an expense standpoint, with all of these, the NPFL and the invitationals are very similar from an expense standpoint. $5,000 entry fees, 6 events, no championship. Payouts are a little different, but like realistically, very similar structured. Honestly, schedule wise too, it's interesting to see both Major League Fishing invitationals and the BPT are very centralized in the country. They do both swing into the Southeast a little bit, but there's no northern smallmouth swings when I say Eastern Great Lakes, right? Like your Champlains, your St. Lawrence River, that none of that water is being touched by either of these series. It's more of that central north stuff. I mean, Lake St. Clair, and then on the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, there you go. There's so many dang names. The invitational side, their final tournament's on the Mississippi River in July. So interesting with that. It's like no smallmouth events at all. We've got the Potomac and then the Mississippi River. So interesting there with the invitationals. Going to miss a smallmouth deal out of that, but very, very also a quick season. I mean, you look at the invitationals and February through July, which is, I guess not all that quick, but without a championship, it's done in July. I mean, that's not even 6 months out of the year for somebody who's maybe can work a job and fish those. But interesting proposition with all of this. And I think expense wise, the invitationals NPFL are very close. And then the opens are also actually pretty close, probably from that perspective, because your entry fee is less, but you're fishing 9 events. The trick being there, though, is that your payback's also less in the opens. So your payback's less if you don't win an open. You're not getting those $8,000-$10,000 checks, right? When you cash a check at that $5,000 entry fee level. Opens are quite a bit less than that, but your entry fee is also $2,000. So a lot to think about for anyone who's kind of really looking at making that next step, fishing at a national scale level. And I am super curious to where everyone goes, and I'm excited. And I would love to hear everyone's opinion on this. Comment on YouTube, shoot us a message on the Serious Angler Instagram page. Would love to hear everyone's thoughts with this. I love this time of the year because we think through what everyone is doing, but love to hear it. Love to hear everyone's thoughts, and hope everyone's doing well, getting ready already for 2023. If you're still in the water, more power to you. It's getting colder. We've got a couple of winter derbies in southern Colorado that we're going to try and get into here so long as weather permits. But hope everyone's doing well. Can't wait to get things rolling in 2023. And as always, would appreciate likes, comments, reviews, everything from the Serious Angler guys. So we've got a lot in the hopper. If you guys haven't already checked out the Lure Lab podcast, that's a fantastic new quick style podcast that Andrew Bailey and I have been doing. And with that, guys, have a good rest of your week.